Hey, welcome back to the Lead Counsel Podcast. Your host, Tom Tona. Before we jump into today's topic, I just want to take a minute to thank the sponsors of the podcast. This episode is sponsored by Tona Law. They're not just another law firm. They're defining what it means to fight for their clients. We get a lot of attorney referrals from across the country. We pay fee participation in all jurisdictions where it's permitted. We focus on integrity, innovation, and relentless advocacy. Tona Law is proving that the business of law can scale without losing its heart. Do you want to see how a modern firm is built for impact and happy client referrals? Check out tonalaw.com. Mention again the Lead Counsel Podcast, and I'm happy to get on the phone with you. And our guest of the day, Craig Goldenfarb. You've kind of turned me into a mastermind junkie at this point, and I travel all over the country and I do these masterminds. And I've been attending yours, I think, since the first one you ever did. What was the purpose for you of creating the Seven-Figure Attorney Summit?
Well, I found that because I'm mainly a businessman now and not an attorney, I saw a lot of my friends in the legal industry across the country struggling to develop skills that they were never taught. And those skills are skills of leadership, skills of business, skills of how to grow organizations, even basic skills like making a budget, which lawyers don't do, and stuff that's so basic if you get a business degree or if you start a sneaker store selling sneakers, but they don't teach it in law school or medical school because they just teach you your craft. And if you just learn your craft, that's great. You become a good craftsman, but that doesn't mean you're necessarily going to be successful financially because you're a good craftsman. And most lawyers are very good craftsmen at their craft, but they have absolutely no idea how to make a viable office. And because I recognized that I was a better businessman than I ever was a lawyer, I love helping people make some sort of transition to at least establishing a second skill set. And that's the skill set of being a leader, a better person, and a business person. So that's where it started. I think that once you're around $1 million, and I'd also say about 6 to 10 staff, you have a fork in the road. And the fork in the road is where you've got to choose. Do you want to continue to be a craftsman and an attorney? Or do you want to grow your business larger and make more money, but also shift what you do for a living? And that goes really internal and deep, that decision. And I want to be at that decision point for people, because if their decision is that they want to stay being a craftsman and an attorney, and that's right for them, that's great. I want to help them decide that they want to continue to be a craftsman. And if they want to take the opposite approach and become a business person and run a business, then I can guide them through that process too. So I kind of want to be their guide in making that really important decision, which occurs between 6 and 10 employees and about $1 million in revenue for a personal injury firm. And it's almost like I'm their therapist because I can help them look inside and figure out their identity and figure out which direction they want to take. And whichever direction they want to take, I say that's got to be the direction that's going to make you happy the rest of your life.
I think that's awesome. I was talking to somebody today on a coaching call, and the person was talking to me about, hey, I'm interested in coaching, and they were right around that $1 million mark. And what kept coming up was the topic of fear. They must have used the word fear 5 times in that one call. And I said, well, you're at a crossroads, similar to what you just said. You're at a crossroads where you can't fear X, Y, and Z. X being people disappointing you, or fear letting go of control, and build. So you either have to choose your desire to build is greater than your need to feel in control over situations that scare you, or stay a solopreneur or have like a small office, 1 attorney and 5-7 staff, or you're going to have to let go past the $1 million mark to then grow and scale a business.
Yeah, fear is the main blockade at that step. And, just like in a fork in the road, when you're facing that proverbial fork, you're scared of making the wrong decision because you have a decision to make. And the only thing that's preventing you on taking one path or the other is fear. And you've nailed it. It's the fear of delegation, the fear of letting go, the fear of control, the fear of failure. These are all fears. So every part of business growth for me involves a new challenge involving fear.
You give away tremendous value to those of us that are on the same journey, just years or brackets of revenue behind you, and it shortcuts the process. You were like, look, my entire team did a study on platforms for payroll. This was the best one. I just saved 6 months of analyzing that stuff, came back and said, we're moving over to Paylocity. right?
Yeah, I think I'm so lucky that I just form, candidates form an exploratory committee. So I form all these committees to vet vendors. And then they come to me and they do a presentation, and it ends up costing me 1 hour of my time because all I have to do is sit through their presentation. So the committee does it. They spend dozens of hours vetting different vendors, and then they come to me with a recommendation, and they're usually spot on. And I have a few questions, and I didn't have to do any of the vetting. And if I can give that gift to other attorneys, that if you're looking for a VA company and my firm has vetted 10 of them, and here's the one we use, then it just saved you all that vetting, and you're probably going with one that's pretty decent because my firm vetted it. And I don't always get it right, nor do my committees. But they've put in a lot of time vetting all these different companies, and they know what information I need. So I like to give that up.
And there's networking and stuff too, but for anybody that hasn't attended it, you do not realize the world that it will open up. I mean, one of the things that you provide, whether it's for people in the law or not, is because it's the same struggles, whether they're in the law or they're a law firm vendor and they're at different stages of their law firm vendor business. They would still benefit from being at your seminar because it's the same struggles. At some point, you go from technician to entrepreneur. You want to know what you're getting into. And for many people, the first exposure that they've had to that entrepreneurial space in law firm ownership is seeing what you have built, right?
Yeah,
opening that up. That alone has value in it. Right.
Yeah, it's just realizing what's out there as far as growing a business and what you could be at some stage, or even if you want to grow from just $1 million to $2 million. I mean, that's 2 times growth. That's amazing. Or if you want to go to 20 million or 50 million, whatever stage of growth you're at, it doesn't really matter. It just takes different skills and getting over fear.
And what's beautiful about it is I've had a different concept of, okay, we're now going here based upon what I just learned at Craig's thing. Based upon what I learned about myself at Craig's thing and how I might be the choke point. And actually, I got myself out of the marketing silo and hired a fractional CMO. I went fractional first because of the level that I'm at. And a lot of that is based on every time I go to your 7-figure attorney seminar or John Fisher's mastermind, and especially when they're back to back, being in the room with you or other players that we know, I can see what the future requires and have access to that and have dinner with you. And so the benefit of me seeing it and all of our friends that we're at dinner with, it's just, there's nothing that brings that much value as what you're delivering, right? Just doing those dinners and the networking event that you do and just getting in a peek at your playbook is worth what you charge. It's just an unbelievable delivery of value. What you have built in this 7-figure mastermind is truly, truly, really admirable. I want to be at the 8-figure mark. So what I do is I kind of take everything you're doing and I say, okay, what is the scale I need to adapt for the level that I'm at the multiple 7-figure mark, right? And so there's something for everybody. At this point, pulling from people all over the country, and then the people that are attending are now able to cross-pollinate their marketing with people in other states and cities, which I love. I love that aspect of it too.
I think that's fantastic. I mean, I've made so many friends. And, to me, like we talk about in Atticus, Tom, if you're in a club that likes chess, you feel awesome because all your friends share the love of chess. And we all love our communities, right? Well, if you're in a group of business-minded lawyers, it's like being in the chess club. It's like all these people love the same thing you're into. And what better home is there for a person than in a group of like-minded individuals? So I get so much richness. And you said you're a mastermind junkie, so am I. And it's not just because of the knowledge. It's because we all want to matter. And when you're in a group of people who have a similar love, whether it's tennis or chess or anything, my wife's into ghost hunting. I mean, she goes on ghost hunting adventures across the country, which is so cool. And I'm like, I'm not going, but she goes and she meets all these people and she doesn't even believe in ghosts. She just loves the community of people who like going to these things. So
that's awesome.
The masterminds I go to, it's the same thing. I just love being with folks who share a common goal and a common passion. And to me, that's why I love hanging out at groups like this.
Yeah, but it's building, and I kind of try to talk about this when people ask me about my marketing plans. It builds a scalable referral-based marketing that you don't really get from like your local BNI or LaTips, right? You're in a room of business lawyers that build out business systems And a lot of those systems incorporate referrals of personal injury cases to New York law firms or to Palm Beach County law firms, right?
Absolutely.
So there's a business component to it. I mean, I get business from all over the country now.
Yeah, I give your name out all the time. You give my name out all the time.
Exactly.
I mean, if you're looking for a pure financial ROI, being at these groups is easily not just the knowledge, but the referral business. I mean, I know 5-10 lawyers from New York. I know lawyers from everywhere, and they're each different and can handle different stuff, and they get cases that refer me too. So it's all good. It's all great.
I really want to thank you. What you're doing is extremely valuable. It shows people a different way of the practice of law, and to me, a much better way, right? Like you could take a vacation, you could have your nights and weekends back and build it like a business, or be the practitioner that wants to be the best trial lawyer around, but then find somebody who can do the business end of it if you're looking to build past pure technician role. Jay Ruane.
That's the beauty of being part of a mastermind. I joined the fireproof group for a while, and that's all PI related. I went in with an open mind. I came out of it saying, yeah, this isn't the right place for me to be, but I took a phenomenal idea from it. I tweaked it for us. And so we adapted a year and a half ago now, the pod model that is very prevalent in a lot of PI firms. Yeah. And we changed it up. I made my paralegal the head of a pod, and the lawyers work for the paralegal, because that's the model that works on the criminal side. I think that's one of the beautiful things about being exposed to new ideas.
I'm fascinated by masterminds, and I know you have a criminal defense specific mastermind. It's called the Criminal Mastermind, which I love. When did you start it? What was the impetus behind the Criminal Mastermind?
So there's one main criminal organization nationally, the DUI Defense Lawyers Association. There's another one that I'm also a member of as well. And for 25 years, I've been going to these conferences, going to these seminars, and they never talk about business. So it was always at the dinners, in the reception hall, in the lunches, where we would talk about business. And that was my thing. I loved talking about business. Everywhere I went to one of these conferences, there'd be a table with me and a half a dozen to a dozen other trial lawyers, and we'd be talking about the business stuff. And I loved it. Anybody in that community give me a call, I tell them how I did things. And for years, I gave it all away. That was my thing. And I loved doing that. And my wife was on me. She kept saying, why don't you formalize this? You talk to these people all the time, but put them on a schedule. What are the things that you want in your office, and use this as a platform to bring in those speakers? So we take the tuition from the mastermind. I brought in the Ritz-Carlton last year. It's not a cheap thing, but they came in and did all about customer service last December. The year before that, I brought in a performance coach to talk about how to overcome adversity. I'm constantly bringing in the best speakers. And so that's really, it helps me because, I'm 51, I'll be 52 later this year. And the average age in my office is like 36. So I'm significantly older than my whole office. And I have a passion for my people, my team. I want to make sure that they succeed. I also want to make sure that they are secure. Even the security is more important for me than the success, I guess. And so I know that there's going to come a point about a decade from now where I say, I'm done. I'm out. I need to be able to turn my office over to my team and make sure that it continues to run, because I have, a 30-year-old employee with 3 kids, and she wants to have, the 30-year career and doesn't want to be upended. So my job is to make sure that this operation runs smoothly. So I'm using the mastermind for my own devilish benefit of making sure I bring in the best speakers, I get the best systems, I make sure that we are running, and then everything's recorded for my team to be able to go back to that as a resource as well. And so the lawyers in my office that are going to focus on administration, they can follow up and listen to all the sessions about administration. The ones who are doing marketing, they'll have a resource as well. And so that's really the goal. It's selfish. It's to help me out, but I invest in my mastermind as much as I can.
I went to a mastermind recently, and it was several 8-figure law firms, and that's the trajectory I'm on. And I stood up and I gave them a complete autopsy of my firm. And it's really vulnerable to put everything up, the good, the bad, the ugly, right? So I put everything up on a big slideshow, and they're like, okay, so what do you want to ask us? I'm like, I'm questioning my sanity at this point. Like, am I in the right space? And they're like, yeah, 100%. You go through exactly where you are at the stage you're at. And it's that validation, like you said earlier, you're not alone. I have a lot of peer groups that I'm in, but that's what I get from it's weird. You guys put out content, and a lot of the stuff I'm struggling with, it's talking to me just literally in the moment. Patrick Wilson. What's awesome about you, the company Atticus, and all of the coaches like you is you guys actually know what you're doing, right? So if I come to you with a problem, you kind of have a matrix that you'll take us through to help diagnosis and a framework, right? And I know the higher up I go in this type of training, I realize just how few people really know this stuff. And I don't care, like Patrick knows, I referred him somebody recently. You could be making multiple 7 figures. That still doesn't mean that you know what you're doing, right? It doesn't mean you don't need a coach. You need a coach probably more than ever if you're making 7 figures or more and haven't hired a coach. So I think that you provide a very valuable service. And I know that it's really enriched my practice and my life. And I hope that anybody that's listening to this, maybe it won't be Patrick because he has been there very long and he's one of the more expensive or pricier investments in terms of coaching. But anybody at Atticus, at whatever level you're at, they'll have a program that fits you economically, right? There's going to be something you can afford. I'm always dumbfounded when somebody says, I can't afford it. It's too expensive. I'm like, really? So you've never heard the saying that if you think education's important, wait till you find out about ignorance. It's the same thing.
Yeah. So I mean, I get it. Like I said, I've been the guy sweating payroll and looking around saying, where's that money going to come from? I totally get it. And not many attorneys have done business coaching, right? So it's still a rather unusual experience among lawyers, right? So it's
right.
So it's an investment in something that is a little unusual. It's a little weird and you don't know about the return on investment. So I kind of get it. So I don't know if you remember this, but I've always offered what I call the 90-day test drive, right? Is that in the first 90 days, if I can't find a way to make it valuable, now you got to communicate with me, right? If something's not working for you, let me know. But if I can't find a way to make it valuable, in the first 90 days, you can ask for and get all your money back. One part of coaching we didn't talk about is accountability, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so I do want to emphasize this. This is all of the people listening, right, have had great ideas that don't go anywhere, right? They just never get around to it. So a good coach will hold you accountable and make you do stuff. Having someone to hold you accountable drives action, right? So if you've ever worked out with a personal trainer, you get that, right? You've put some money down and you've got an appointment and you don't feel good, right? You got no energy and you didn't sleep well last night or whatever. And if it was just up to you, you wouldn't go to the gym, but dang it, I paid some money. I got an appointment. I'm going to show up. And then the guy kicks your butt, right? And you work out really hard, right? So having a coach is kind of like that, right? It pushes you, it gives you some accountability, makes you show up when you
Well, that's where all the value comes in, right? Like if you think about the premise of DYM, right? One of the things in the Dominate Your Market program was they wanted us to innovate something that had never been done.
Right.
Well, if we didn't have a cadence of accountability, 4 meetings out of the year, whether it's a check-in, how's it going? Is it done? It's not going to get done, right?
This is the fundamental problem. All your stuff over here, we'll call the practice of law, right? You got deadlines that drive action, right? You got a deposition coming up next Thursday. You got a hearing on Friday. You got a client coming in for something, right? Everything in the practice of law is like a time bomb, right? It's got a due date and an explosive negative consequence if you blow past that due date, right?
Coaching, in addition to the accountability it provides professionally, it sounds silly, but the accountability is what moves the needle, right? And that's what's so special about coaching, as long as the coach is a qualified coach.
We'll say this on if you're looking for a coach consultant, it's okay if it doesn't work, but try another one. I'd make this analogy. I've been to counseling several times in my life, right? I'm a bit of a mess. But
you and everybody else we know.
I'm not as much of a mess as I used to be, thanks to counseling. But I've been several times with varying degrees of help, right? So because the quality of the counselors varied. Some were great, some were not so great. So yeah, anybody can call themselves a coach, right? So if you've had a bad experience with coaching, don't assume that all coaches are therefore unhelpful. I'd maybe try again.
I don't see how you get to that understanding of people or culture without a coach. I really don't, because they didn't teach it to us in law school. We were so woefully unprepared. And all we ever learned about being out in private practice, quite honestly, is what we learned in the movies. You know, from Charles Dickens, when you hang a freaking shingle out literally on the front and you're a lawyer all of a sudden. But that's not a business. That's a job.
Right.
You basically have traded in one job for another without any job security. Thank you for listening to this episode of Lead Counsel Podcast. Your host, Tom Tona. Go anywhere podcasts are distributed. Follow us. Leave us a 10-star review. Share some episodes with your friends. And thanks for listening. I appreciate it. Thank you. This episode is sponsored by Tonal Law. They're not just another law firm. They're defining what it means to fight for their clients. We get a lot of attorney referrals from across the country. We pay fee participation in all jurisdictions where it's permitted. We focus on integrity, innovation, and relentless advocacy. Tonal Law is proving that the business of law can scale without losing its heart. If you want to see how a modern firm is built for impact and happy client referrals, check out tonallaw.com. Mention again the Lead Counsel Podcast, and I'm happy to get on the phone with you.